Good day or night to you, I'm Ebenezer, and welcome to Gaming Tome Digital. Mordhau had an update. I've been following the bi-weekly development posts, and I got the impression that the update was going to come a week or two from now, but no, it arrived just the other day in time for Halloween. And it is fitting the update came just before Halloween because it features a map called Dungeon. But that's not all in the update. There's some other things that are not necessarily spooky and Halloween related. So I have the patch notes pulled up here. I'm going to go through them quickly, maybe, and then I'm going to jump in game and show off some of these new features. So here is the overview of the update. There's a new map called Dungeon. I assume the map is entirely a subterranean dungeon. None of it is above ground. Looking at the image here, we see these wonderful furnishings that remind you that nothing bad ever happens in a dungeon. Female characters have finally made it to Mordhau's character customization, but it is in a somewhat limited state. I think the developers need to expand upon it in future updates, so we will get to that later. There's weapon skins added to the game, cosmetic items, and there's a new armor/weapon skin DLC set, the Dragon set. Now that looks fancy. Look at the plumage on this knight. He's got a peacock feather coming out of the back of his neck. That is just fancy. How do you get fancier than this?
Okay, here is how you get fancier. Take some gold wire, weave it into a bird nest, fasten the golden nest to the top of a helmet, then nestle a jewel-encrusted gilded Fabergé egg into said nest. Glue the whole thing down, maybe duct tape it too because you don't want it to fall off.
So now we're going into the nitty-gritty details of the patch notes. So they added female body with one face and 4 voice options. The game definitely needs more than one face for the female characters. 4 voice options, that's good. I imagine additional faces will be added in future updates for free. Maybe a couple of voice options. Maybe they'll arrive as a DLC voice set. So I don't know, but female characters, they're here, but I think they need to be expanded upon for some more options in the future. So some features have been re-implemented into the armory. In the last update, the armory got overhauled and some features disappeared, but they've been brought back. Being able to preview the team colors of your character and also being able to hide the default loadouts from the list. That one's just like a checkbox. Just check the box and you don't have to see the default archer or the protector. Maps added the dungeon. The dungeon, it has the 32 player, the 64 player, but also has an alternate. We will delve into that shortly. Removed respawn timer from Frontline. It's been a while since I've played Frontline. I assume that's going to make Frontline matches go faster. It'll cut down on downtime between deaths, so you can run into the combat, die, and then you can run back in to die sooner. Changes, let's see. Change map vote to select different game modes from the map rotation equally. That's good. And then there's just some changes to various maps, fixes like adjustments regarding objectives and toolbox stuff. Weapons and equipment. Added new rideable hog that can be found in the dungeon. So before this update, there were people making characters dressed up like the hog rider from Clash of Clans, and now it's complete. They can now take their hog rider character and ride a hog through the dungeon. So this just feels like a fun feature. added throwable explosive barrels to Dungeon and Horde. Throwable fire urns are now in Horde. Maybe they're additional kind of grenade options for Horde mode, I guess. We'll take a look at those. Bricks, bones, skulls, those are all added to Dungeon. I feel like those are going to be the Dungeon equivalent of like the broken swords and rusty weapons found on Mountain Peak. I can already picture players dressed up as cavemen playing around with these bones and throwing skulls at anyone that looks at them funny. Bear traps no longer can be triggered by friendlies running over it. I don't know if that extends to the person who laid the bear trap. At least the person who's laying bear traps can't troll their own team. Increased enemy footstep volume slightly. That'll probably make the rat perk a little more enticing. You can quiet down your footsteps with that. What other notable changes are there? Tank movement speed buffed very slightly. I like that. I liked playing as a tank, being a giant. Dagger point cost reduced to 1. That's nice. I like to sometimes put a dagger on my character and just use it as a throwable. Throwing knife point cost reduced to 3. I believe the throwing knives were the same cost as the throwing axes. You would get twice as much ammo, but they would do less damage than a throwing axe. And even having twice as many throwing knives, it just still wasn't as useful. So I think that's a good change. Some changes to how much damage deployables and doors take. So doors take 25% more melee damage. Deployable spawns take more damage now from projectiles, so you can shoot a banner potentially. Toolbox walls and spikes now take 50% more melee damage. I think that's good. They can be quite powerful in specific situations, so I'm glad they put this in. I want to see how that changes the effectiveness of engineers on the battlefield. And then we have a fix to the firebomb cost on the Horde mode of camp. And then some skins have been added, some armor and weapon stuff. So that's all pretty nice. Let's jump in game and take a look at some of these changes. Okay, so here we are in Mordhau. There's the hide defaults button that's there. And you can now preview team colors. And I made some female characters just to try it out. So I have this one here. To create a female character, you have to select the body type. By default, it's male. There's only one face option. I hope they add more in future updates. Right now, there's only one option. There are some new hairstyles that I believe are... Actually, wait, let me check. Yeah, some of these hairstyles are restricted to female characters, like this one, and I believe this one too, and this one, which is like a braid that's clipping through the clothing there. Or is it? No, I think maybe it's just too close to the camera. We have 4 voice sets, so we have the Noble first.
You are quite possibly the most stupid person I have ever had the misfortune to meet! I rather like you. You're certainly the best of a bad bunch.
And then the Northern voice set.
Do that again and I'll slice your bollocks off, though I might have trouble finding him. Follow me! Insult me again and my blade's going up your shithole!
Whoa. Then we have the Southern voice set.
Hello there. I'm out of my depth here. Care to help me? No, 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 and no again!
And then the Cruel voice set. The female version of the Cruel voice set.
You reek of fear, you rotten coward! I should have known you bastards would fail me.
I like the new voice sets. I'm sure there's some good lines in there that are going to float to the surface and get quoted a lot. Here is another character that I made, and one problem with the hair system of the game that I feel like is more of an issue with the female characters is as soon as you put on a hat or helmet, the character goes bald. And that's because like the hair models, I guess, they clip through a lot of these hats. I really hope they find a way to get around that. And just because, you know, half of these loadouts in Mordhau are memes and silly things, I made an old lady loadout. She's just a little tiny old lady. She's got a big walking stick she smacks people with, and a frying pan too, to smack people on the head with.
Listen here, dearie. If you don't clean up the entrails of your enemies, I'm gonna have to smack you back into the Dark Ages. Granny has experience with the Middle Ages. She survived the dungeons of King Richard.
Okay, and now let's dive into a local match of Frontline on Dungeon. So Dungeon, it's on the smaller side compared to a lot of the other maps. It's mainly this big central room that has an upper level, a lower level, and some pathways to get up and down through climbing or through stairs. And then this big room, it's surrounded by some hallways. On one side of the map, there's a room with these big swinging pendulums of death, and there's cranks on both sides that drop the bridges. So if anyone is stuck in the middle platform there, they're in a bad spot. There's also this room here, which has a crank that seals that door and this door and drops the bridges, which forces people that are on this middle platform into an even worse situation. Then there's some like food plates that can be consumed, and resupply box, some bones, skulls, and bricks. I'll get to those in a little bit. On the other side of the map, there's two areas. On the upper floor, there's this small spike trap room, which this crank seals the doors, and then moments later, spikes shoot out of the walls and impale people. And behind these boards, there's like a creepy altar in this room. Some dried up dead bodies. This is something that I like about this map. How there's all these destructible boarded up pathways. There's holes in the stonework that have boards blocking them, but you can break them down to open up the map. There's a lot of those around. Like here's another one. Oh, and then there's the hog. And there's a bunch of jail cells. The doors can be broken down. I don't know if there's really that much in them. There's a few bones and skulls here. And that's pretty much the entire map. I'm actually going to jump into the gameplay here as one of my new characters so I can show off some of these things. Like here's the bone. I think the bone might be a reskin of the heavy branch, like the one-handed wooden branch. If I can hit something. Oh. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, skull. Here's an archer. Yeah, the skull does it It's a throwable that does a lot of damage. It might be identical to the bricks, which, if I can find a pile of bricks... I think there's a pile of bricks on the other side of the map. Okay, so here's the pile of bricks. They kind of work like the piles of rocks that can be picked up and thrown, but they can be thrown further. I don't think they do splash damage. They still do a lot of damage. They might be the same as the skulls, actually. So, another thing, if you can control the side rooms, you get access to explosive barrels for your team. Oh! So if you can control these side rooms that have traps, these chests give you access to explosive barrels, and the chests do respawn. So, oh... Come on. There we go. Explosive barrels. That makes it even more chaotic. Here is the hog. You can ride the hog. It is slower than a horse, and you will deal less damage than you would if you were riding a horse. It is hilarious. The pig! Riding a pig, I tell ya. On both sides of this pit, there's levers that open it up. People can fall in there and get burned to a crisp. And I like that it doesn't immediately kill the players that fall in. It takes a few moments. It just adds to the dark humor of the map. There is one more thing that I want to explore, and that is fire urns in the horde mode. So let's just jump over to that quickly. So you can buy explosive barrels, but they're a one-use thing. They're not, you don't get more ammo after a while. You use it and it's gone. They're not that expensive though, so it's not that bad. But you need to throw them well. Come on, over here. Stand by the bomb. Very powerful against groups, but you need to time it very well. Anyway, so that is Dungeon. It's a small map. It's just a head-to-head battle between the two teams. It's got a bunch of traps, a bunch of nice throwable items, and some bones you can pick up. Explosives. That is the new update to Mordhau. Cool stuff. It's not as large of an update, but it did come quicker than the previous one, and I am grateful for that. I need to do one or two more Let's Plays of Mordhau now that there's new stuff. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you did not, then tell me why. If you want to see more content, then ride that hog over to the subscribe button, or feed the subscribe button to the hog. I don't know what you do with it. The hog is hungry and it needs the subscribe button or something. Anyway, thank you for watching, and until next time, keep making and keep playing. Have a good one.